without further ado, I'm going to start by saying, welcome to episode 3 of Limit Break of Final Fantasy Radio. We are incredibly excited to have a couple guests from the Breath of Fire Facebook page here, admins Nina Windia and Remember the Ages. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you for having us.
And so one thing that I want to talk about is, I've liked the Facebook group of Breath of Fire for so long, and one thing that I really want to talk about is just kind of my previous experiences with Breath of Fire. Just to give everybody kind of a clue as to why I'm so excited to have this happening right now. When I was in middle school, beginning middle school, I remember there was a Movies and More rental place right down the street from me, and I remember going there every 3 days to renew my rental because I would have $3 every 3 days. I could renew my rental of Breath of Fire on Super Nintendo every 3 days, and I remember asking the clerk if I could buy it or just kind of rent to own it, and they said no. And then, like, a year later, they went out of business. So, joke's on them. Breath of Fire for me was incredibly important in kind of my gaming past because it did set me, along with Final Fantasy, obviously, but Breath of Fire 2 set me on such a path of just enjoying, immersing myself in RPGs, just grabbing whatever I could. So that's why I'm so excited to be, bringing other people, other gaming views into this podcast, because, one thing that I'm very good at is talking about Final Fantasy, but I'm not incredibly good at talking about other video games, other games in the genre. So that's why I'm really excited. And I see Breath of Fire as an iconic RPG series, and being two big contributors to that community is incredibly cool, and having you here is incredibly cool. So let me ask each of you, and whoever wants to answer first, what game drew you in, and for what reasons?
I'll go ahead and start. I'll just take this one by the reins. So I was actually a little late to the Breath of Fire party. My first game actually was the introduction to Breath of Fire 4. I had already had a little bit of experience with RPGs at the time, and Final Fantasy for sure, 4 being my first one, really getting my hands deep into it and stuff, and then 7, 6, and all that stuff. But Breath of Fire 4 was special to me because it was the first time I was privileged enough to buy my own game. So for me, it was kind of that daunting task because back in the day, you only got so much money, and you save that up for special things. So I needed to make sure that my purchase was one that was going to last me quite some time before the next, little bundle of gift of cash. So I went through, I believe it was a Walmart or a KB Toys or something like that, and I remember seeing Breath of Fire 4, and I was like, what is this? The cover wasn't too appetizing. It had 2 characters. It had Ryu in the back with his sword drawn, and then you had Fulu kind of in front of him in a miniature form, and I was like, all right, this is kind of weird. Breath of Fire, that's not something that's really going to stand out too much. But I remember looking at the back of the case. I remember seeing one of the dragons and the transformations and all this stuff about you are this dragon clan and that you're able to go forth and like take down other creatures, and no one's really a human. Everybody is based off of an animal creature. So for that, I was enthralled because I love dragons. Dragons have always been a big part of my life and interest that I've had. So my first gaming experience was Breath of Fire 4, and I absolutely love that game. Most definitely one of my favorites out of the series. I know 3 is really close in a lot of regards. And 1 and 2, 5, they're all great. Like, they're really fantastic games. But 4 holds that special place because it was my first one to play. And I just really like that whole system of you got to play the good guy, and you got to play what was conceived as the bad guy. So you really got to experience both worlds of how these 2 characters come to the conclusions that they come to at the end of the game. It's a fantastic way to basically do storytelling.
Very cool. Thank you. And Nina?
Um, well, my experience is a little bit not traditional one because, well, in my country, aside of like few small games, you don't hear about a lot of games. And I got my first game, which was Breath of Fire 1, in not very conventional ways. Anyway, until then, I had no idea what even RPG was. I didn't even know what was role play game is. I was like 12, and there was a guy waking up, but back then I was sure it was a girl. So I was like, yay, a game with a girl, which was so cool. And at some point, I realized that I needed to save because apparently the game kept erasing my file. So I decided to stop. But part of me wanted to find out more about it. So I read on the net, and there was supposed to be a girl with wings at some point. And I was like, girl with wings. Angels. It's like, if ages like Dragon, my favorite love is actually angels. So I went back to the game and played it only because I found out that in the second game, that girl's supposed to have black wings. So my love was even enriched at that moment even more. So let's just say that on the first game, I got to level 40, and I didn't even realize you're supposed to change equipment. That kind of would have helped a lot, I guess, and wouldn't spend so much time on it. But I like the story. I like the fact that you can. I like the music. I like everything. And the second game was even more emotional for me because the first game was a lot more cheerful. Nobody dies aside of you characters. It doesn't matter. And then second game was very emotional, and and then it was the point that I actually found out there are more other games like that, the whole genre of that. So it was a very important game for me, and actually enriched my whole gaming experience, which I had no idea about it until that point. And that game will always have a place in my heart. So yeah, Breath of Fire 1 was actually my first game.
Very cool. So awesome. So thank you for sharing that with us, both of you. That was very cool. You know, so I I talked to everyone this past, well, like, I don't know, I've been talking about this for probably a month or so. And we decided on the topic of the podcast today to be, mankind has somehow, just disappeared from Earth. The ruins of mankind are strewn about, and aliens land down on this desolate rock of a planet, and they find 5 JRPGs on the ground, just lying there, just randomly, just on the sidewalk. Which 5 JRPGs would we want, or RPGs? I said JRPGs, but RPGs in general, would we want them to be? The traditional JRPG is what I was kind of aiming for here. But what would we want them to find to represent mankind? Not the fact that we blew ourselves up or somehow just left Earth. But what video games should they play and be like, oh, these guys kind of had it going right. And so what I is to kind of have, since we have 5 people, I kind of want to do a round table style. I'll say one. I'm gonna ask somebody what theirs is. We'll give explanation as to why we picked that. Um, that's what I foresee as being how we handle get going through, instead of somebody being like, oh, I picked this, and this, and then it's like, okay, well, that's a lot of information. So I'm actually going to start, and I'm going to, just to play off of this, and this was not an easy choice, but to just keep the ball rolling, I'm picking Breath of Fire 2 as one of the 5 that I want aliens to find. Breath of Fire 2 has such a, I like to think that I'm moderately religious, and Breath of Fire 2 speaks to you that it shows what blind faith and everything can sometimes do to people, what it can essentially be, and to be kind of to be walking through the world and have this story of, there's these two gods, there's the dragon god and there's Saint Eva, but there's something wrong going on in the world. Monsters are appearing, they're becoming very violent. There's a strange wind blowing through. And on top of it, the music in not in Final Fantasy, jeez, come on. Breath of Fire 2 is great. I love the music. I love the graphics as a whole. It is a beautiful game to play. The actual gameplay itself is very straightforward, turn-based RPG. So, the decision-making in the game, it's very interesting because, in some games, no matter what decision you make, you are walking that path. And I like how at the end of the game, certain decisions you made in the middle of the game even impact what happened at the end of the game. You start building a small town, which grows into a large town, which can eventually fly. It's something really amazing. And the entire story just encompassed me. I felt like, and when I first played it, and here's what I did this week. I didn't play it on an emulator. I didn't download a ROM. I bought it off the Nintendo store and played it right on there using a true controller that felt good and everything. And I was just shocked at how much fun it was. Not shocked, I should say, but just all the feelings coming back, just, realizing how good of a game it was. So that's my first pick. I will move on to Scott. Scott, what do you have for a first pick? And by the way, these are not in any order. I don't care what order the aliens find these in. This is just us,
Okay.
saying these are 5 games. We don't really assign a rank to them, but they're the best. So Scott, what do you got?
Well, after 2-3 weeks of debating what I should choose and nominate, it came down to Final Fantasy XII. The reason why I chose Final Fantasy XII, well, there were multiple reasons. The storyline, the actual atmosphere of Ivalice, the composed music by Nobuo Uematsu. Gameplay was amazing. You had the Gambit system, which was, you'd have 4 party members. You mainly control that one individual, out of the, I think it was 8 characters, and just amazing. I mean, not only was the storyline tightly knit, it was interesting, relevant to the series, but you also had an amazing soundtrack. Kiss Me Goodbye was, I think it was done by Erika Kairi, and just phenomenal composer. Nobuo Uematsu got it all set up and went out of his way for it. Replaying, I actually played Final Fantasy 12 a couple weeks back just because they announced the Zodiac job system coming up in 2017. Square Enix wants to clearly get it out there again, so I'm pretty stoked. I'm excited. And, after you actually complete the game, there's so much replay value. You're given, 7 espers, attached to the storyline. There's another 8 you have to completely unlock again. So when it came to actually going through selections, it had to be the Final Fantasy series. I've grown up with it most of my life. It's always been, I guess you could say my tea and crumpet, if anyone's British. And so, honestly, when it came down to it, I definitely have to have those aliens find that game, because there was nothing like it. I think Square Enix, before they really developed their company and took things to Final Fantasy 13 and onwards, I think 12 was kind of like the conclusion to the original Square Enix that we some of us might have grown up with. That same Square Enix, that Squaresoft, and I think it was that Enix company that came together and made a partnership. And I think before they started really working in the corporate levels, I really strongly believe that Final Fantasy 12 was just an end pinnacle from the original individuals who actually may have started that company. Now, I don't have any information and, inside information regarding this. I'm just putting two together, right? Because, after playing 12 so much and then moving on to 13, you can definitely see how much things have changed. What is considered important in another game from a different development staff is completely, down the drain, depending on what those individuals think. Mm-hmm. So it definitely have to be Final Fantasy 12.
Scott, I did not expect to hear Final Fantasy 12 in this entire conversation, and that's not a bad thing. I'm glad that I was when I heard Final Fantasy coming up, there was a number that I was like, I think I know what he's gonna say, and then you said 12, and I was like, wow, that's but your reasoning is solid. I'll give you that. I wouldn't have picked it. Just me.
I know, right? Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of shame and whatnot, but when you actually get to it, it's like the licensing board, all that, all those features in the game, the gambit system, it just made it so much more intense. You had a huge map, even had time zones and whatnot, and then you had like the monster hunt. You go find that monster behemoth and finally slay it. And now that it's like 2016 going on in 2017, I just see Square Enix as a company that's they've really tried to post, let's say, chocobos out there, the behemoths out there. They've really tried to publicize that as something important to the series. And 12 before 13, before all those guys were pushed out, I think 12 was kind of like the conclusion of Square Enix. Their software development company, like I said, it must have been some straight guys who just had their mind on their money and didn't necessarily want to just sell out.
Yep. No, you make a completely valid point. So, all right. So Final Fantasy 12. Cool. All right, Jack, what you got? What you got for me?
Well, okay, a couple of things before I start. I feel like I have to justify this. One, I was kind of under the impression that we were sticking with the JRPGs.
Yep.
So just throwing this out there, if it was not JRPGs and just RPGs, my list would probably be radically different.
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
It is JRPGs. And then kind of the thing I was telling you guys before we got started, I really haven't played a lot of JRPGs outside of the Final Fantasy series. So that being said, my list is going to be kind of Final Fantasy heavy.
Kind of skewed, but that's
kind
fine.
of skewed in that direction. But hey, I think the aliens would appreciate it. I don't know, maybe not.
No.
So I'm gonna go, and again, in particular order here. And this one this is probably my easy one. My kind of gimme is Final Fantasy VI.
Out of the park.
I mean, right?
There.
That's the go-to easy one. So if anybody else had that on your list, I'm sorry that I jumped on it early. Yeah, and it's gone. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, we do know a decent amount about this game. The music, one of the best soundtracks in not only the Final Fantasy series, but I would argue one of the best game soundtracks that has ever been made. The Celeste theme, Terra's theme, Dancing Mad, all great tracks. The whole opera sequence, I've never seen anything in a video game like that before, and it was just absolutely amazing. The gameplay, it was pretty standard. I thought, the active time battle, pretty standard for that time for RPGs, but good. Standard's not bad. It's just standard. The only downside I saw with that, I mean, it had a lot of great characters. I would say maybe too many characters. We got to a point where, it's like, okay, we started recruiting Yetis for whatever reason, and it's like, okay, I think the ship's maybe full. I don't know, but when we're talking about the main cast, or kind of the bigger names for the game, I thought they were all done very well. and progressed nicely throughout the game. And that kind of flows into the story. I thought the story was fantastic. We could have a whole other podcast probably on who the best villain was of all time, but boy, Kefka's got to be up there. And definitely spoiler alert on everything I'm going to say here, but one of the only bad guys that actually achieved what he set out to achieve. Yep. So that's kind of cool, and also just being just completely crazy, which was fun.
Yeah. He did achieve that as well.
He definitely, if that was a goal, he knocked that one out of the park too.
Yeah.
So that was great. And one thing that I think in all the great moments of the game that gets kind of overlooked, which is why I think it's kind of a good one for our alien overlords to take a look at, is the scene after the right when you get into the world of ruin with Celeste, and it can go either way with Sid and his health. If he passes, she throws herself off a cliff.
Yeah.
And that was another thing that in playing that game, going, wow, that's a really heavy, mature
subject matter.
Situation to be dealing with in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And that sometimes I think gets lost in the different scenes, like the opera scene and everything like that, as being one of the great moments. But that was a pivotal moment too.
Yeah.
And then going back to play it again, there are some different scenes and things that you can see. The whole situation with Shadow and resting, it ends, and you get to see some of Clyde's backstory. And then who you find in the world of ruin, who I think with Shadow too, also when the floating continent's breaking apart, might not get him back. He might die on it. So there's different scenes that kind of play out there. So yeah, that would probably be one of my picks, just to say here is an example of a really, really well done RPG and just video game in general.
I have to agree. Final Fantasy VI is on my list, so it's sure. One of those things where, and the funny thing is that when I played Final Fantasy VI on the Super Nintendo, and Sid died on me because for whatever, I was feeding him fast fish and he died still. I don't know what was happening. And I remember I didn't understand. I don't think I was mature enough to handle why Celeste went off the cliff, because I was like, well, did she just slip and fall? And I was like, that was what was in my head, as a younger child. And I was like, I don't truly understand what's happening here as to why she would do that. And then I played it later. I'm like, holy crap, she just tried to commit suicide. And
right.
I'm like, that's a bit adult for a game that I'm like, do Moogles, yay, that sort of thing. This guy knows dances that kills enemies. That's cute. That sort of thing. No, I have to agree, and when I get to Final Fantasy VI, I'll expand on my feelings a little bit more too. But that's excellent pick. I totally agree. Belongs there. So, Ages, what you got for us?
So who would like to talk a little bit about Unlimited Saga? I'm just kidding. Just kidding. We're not talking about that. That's never going to be on anybody's list, ever.
Oh, that was my next one. No.
What is it? Oh, scratch that one off. Just scratch it off. We don't even. We just mention and move on. I remember playing that game though, and I was like, what? We shouldn't even. This is a game. This is a topic about best games, and that one is on the other side. No, honestly, literally up to the point when the podcast started, I was sitting here going, what am I going to pick? Because everybody asks me, especially because I stream and everything, mm-hmm. and they're always like, what's your favorite RPG? What are your favorite games? And I'm like, I don't know. What I'm playing. There you go. Because I have a choices for certain things. Like, man, I really like the music in this game. That would be a game that I would go to for music. But then I have multiples of that. They're all different varies of whatever I'm feeling. Some are action heavy, some are, soothing or whatnot. So for this first one, I really like that you gave it a theme with the whole aliens coming down. And I always kind of pictured aliens coming down and going, all right, so what are these little weird forearm, whatever kind of people running around, and just want to know about it. So I went with Grandia. Now, Grandia is a interesting type of RPG because it's not very difficult. Like a lot of the RPGs you guys mentioned, those have challenges. Grandia is actually very, very simple. You can breeze through the game just pushing X pretty much for the most part. But it's the sense of adventure that just develops throughout the game. Just watching Justin just become sort of a naive child and running through the world and saying, I want to kill the bad guy and we're going to do some awesome things. And you go through this amazing story where and it's a child's story for the most part. You are adventuring and you're stopping this girl from getting married from a snot-nosed little brat who wants to just run the adventure guild and stuff. And then all of a sudden you're scaling a wall that's never been accomplished before to see the other side of the complete planet, an adventure where no one has ever gone before. And then your adventure takes you even further on with the spirit stones and confronting the army. And you watch as Justin develops, but that's not really the point. A lot of the moments happen in those games where, literally brought me to tears. Just that scene with Sue, like if you know what I'm talking about, that scene is so powerful. Me and my wife actually were playing that game together, and we do voices and stuff for the game, and we had to struggle through that scene because it was so powerful, so moving. The characters were so real, they were so rich. They wrote it well, and they just made them the central focus of the story. The story is basically a bunch of components stuck together, but watching these characters go through these stories, just this lighthearted adventure until you get to the end and you see that, no, this is serious. We got to buckle down. And just the whole experience is just amazing. And that music, I'm telling you, that music is fantastic. If you haven't listened to the Grandia music, I would just implore you to go do so. So for me, my choice for the first one has got to be Grandia. You can pick whatever version you want. If you can read Japanese, I would recommend the Sega Saturn version. It had better animations and frames and stuff like that. Otherwise, us Americans who speak English, or anybody else who speaks English, the PlayStation 1 is a decent version. It's just not as well developed as the Saturn, but that would be my first selection.
I picked up Grandia on my PS3 when I bought it. I downloaded it onto there, and yeah, definitely. No, I happen to agree. That is a strong game to be putting into this list. So it definitely, it's definitely one of those that I would say, yeah, good pick. So, Nina.
Yes.
Which game?
Well, I'm going to cheat. And because you already featured Breath of Fire 2, and despite the fact me and A just kind of went back and forth in personal conversation about what kind of RPG we should go, I think I'm going to start changing my list to focus more on JRPG. I'm going to talk about a game that was not fully translated in English. It was called Secret of Rodra, or Rodora. It was Squaresoft, before they became Square Enix. It was another title, I think, on the time they released Final Fantasy VI. Basically, it's a story of 4 heroes that need to save the world in 60 days, and the days actually advance if you do something that you should not do. And you're supposed to actually finish doing all the things. Great music. Every one of the heroes has their own scenario and group, and you actually need to play with all of them in order to unlock the last scenario. It's very, very good emotionally. The music is one of the greatest. Whatever you do with one hero, you actually affect the others. You can actually meet them along the way at some point. It's a very strong plot, a very cool battle system, because it's actually built on the fact that you create your own spell. You actually have list of words and you can make up your own spell, which is totally awesome. The battle was a lot more advanced than what I saw. I consider it to be really close with Breath of Fire 2 because the sprite were so cute and adorable. exactly, pretty much. So yeah, I'm going to pick that one. I think it has, like, I had few of the tune actually played as my music for a while. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with that one.
It's a good pick right there, and I I like the thought that's being put into these picks too, because this is everybody is keying on different things, and one thing that I love as somebody who runs Final Fantasy Radio is that we're constantly going to music, and it's something that I love about the games, that musically, all of these games, kind of really, if you have the wrong music at the wrong time, then it's gonna ruin the game. But I think that's something that I love about talking about these games too. So very cool. So I guess I'm on the hot seat again. So let's hang on one quick second. I have a come on. There's something that will help you out with what my next pick is.
My God.
Let's hang on. Mess that up. There we go. So that is how we're going to do that. Was there any doubt that this game had to be that Chrono Trigger? This is a podcast, so I should tell people what they're seeing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Chrono Trigger is the game that I'm picking right here. Chrono Trigger is one of, when people say, I had a conversation months ago and somebody's uttered, well, Chrono Trigger isn't that great. And I remember being like, I think Chrono Trigger could actually fall into the realm of one of the best games made. And I go, how dare you say that to me, sir? And I don't know who it was, but I quickly kicked them out of my house or something like that. I mean, obviously, they have no business being here. Chrono Trigger is the battle system, the music, the story, the graphics, very much like Secret of Mana. The look and feel of that as well. It feels like that look as well. But Chrono Trigger is such a tremendous game that it's still, there are games where dialogue kind of ages, I feel, in games. Final Fantasy VI's dialogue, while I love Final Fantasy VI to death, I could hug it to the ground, sometimes the dialogue is a little bit aged. Chrono Trigger always makes me go, wow, that is phenomenal dialogue for a game in which I have to read, word bubbles. But it's not just dialogue. It's the world in which you've been thrown into. You're traveling through time. There's a cast of characters that, it's not, all warriors. It's all, or warriors and mages. It's a robot, a scientist, a boy just, who ran into a princess one day, that sort of thing. And, you do run into a warrior, Frog, a warrior who's a frog, and it's just, the story is so encompassing, because when you first start playing it, you think, okay, well, Magus is this big bad guy, and it just unfolds into something awesome. I think that anybody who plays a JRPG has to look at Chrono Trigger and go, yeah, I need to play that game, or has played it. So
I'm fully prepared to be completely booed off the podcast right now.
Wow.
But I have never played Chrono Trigger.
I'm in there with Jack.
I fully accept that. I understand it. Worse than that is that it's been in my living room for years and years and years. And I have
it's just
never
sitting there?
actually played it. Yes.
Oh.
I know. I'm.
The
I
amount
was.
of
The
disappointment.
I was prepared.
Shake my
for this.
head.
Yeah, it was gonna
Ugh.
come up in one of the lists. I knew it was, and I was prepared.
I
But
need Jim Ross to call out,
but
how
yeah,
upset I am right now.
right. Yes, and that's definitely something I'm going to have to do. But I have never actually played it.
It's okay, Jack. It's
I can
okay.
actually-
Get off my podcast. Oh, what was that?
I can actually share some of your pain there, Jack, is because I've played Chrono Trigger, but I've never actually beaten it. I played
That's-
it and then I
Oh.
stopped. So like that's almost
Ooh.
as bad. Like I got somewhere and I never finished it.
I
That
thought it
is-
was decent,
I
but there were better titles. So I thought it was pretty good. The gameplay was excellent, but that's actually what I like best about this game.
Hmm.
Can't judge something I ain't played.
Wow.
I am actually
You
surprised.
didn't play it either, Scott.
Nope.
Oh my God.
Listen, I might just pick up a coffee.
How do I drop people from a call? No.
I thought I was going to be completely alone here.
Oh, I
Oh,
think I
sorry.
just threw up in my mouth. Ugh. God. You know what? I don't want to even talk to you guys right now. I'm gonna go to Ages with this pick. Ages, what do you have? I need to avoid Jack and Scott for a moment.
I'm gonna jump them because they haven't played Chrono Trigger. That's okay. I'm gonna follow up with, and why not? I fly off the seat of your pants. I'm gonna pick Chrono Cross.
Oh, okay.
Chrono Cross. Now, this is interesting because I just mentioned that I played Chrono Trigger and I've never beaten it. That's not because the game isn't great. That's absolutely true. You're absolutely right. It's fantastic. But Chrono Cross was actually the one I did beat. I was able to get through that game, and there is so much to love about that game. There's a video that I watched. I can't remember the name of it, but he goes through and he breaks down what makes Chrono Cross so amazing, how fantastic. Because I feel like that game got undeserved hate because it
Yep.
wasn't Chrono Trigger 2.
Yep.
And in a way, it's not Chrono Trigger 2. But that's okay. It shares the Chrono Trigger, the Chrono name, but it's just not Chrono Trigger 2. It's a continuation of the story, and it's not its best story to follow up Chrono Trigger because of the events, how it pertains back to Chrono Trigger and how things didn't go positively after the game of Chrono Trigger. But Chrono Cross does something so amazing. I mean, let's just get this out of the way. The music's amazing. All right, everybody knows
Yep.
this. It's just fantastic. The composer behind that was an amazing person, but he also did Chrono Trigger's music as well. So he just followed suit with that composer and just did an absolutely fantastic job. So it absolutely deserves the respect of one of the best soundtracks for that game. It's absolutely beautiful. But there's more to that game. I mean, just the combat system in that game is fantastic. So the kind of what locks in an RPG is that you're kind of stuck with a few options. So like Final Fantasy VI, it's a very basic style of RPG battle mechanics. You choose attack, the character attacks. You choose a spell, he shoots the spell. Maybe it takes a charge time. It's very rudimentary, it's very basic. Chrono Cross changes that whole formula in a lot of ways. You can try to do different styles of attack. So you have your 3 different levels of attack. So you have a weak, medium, and strong attack. But you have a percentage on how well your accuracy is going to land that move. So you can risk it, try to go for the high damage, and get off a couple 3s. What that does, though, is it builds up your basic charge meter. I haven't played it in a while, so I don't remember the exact terminology. But it allows you to use your elements. They're basically like spells. There's consumables and non-consumables. But it allows you to build up your spells so you can make people into mages by using the combat system to bolster up their elements and just lob out spells. So some of the cool things that you can do is that you have a stamina meter with it, and you can actually fudge a little bit of the rules there. So let's say you're like, man, all I'm going to do is a couple attacks, and that only charged up 2 levels. But I want to cast a level 5 spell. Go ahead, cast cast your level 5 spell. It's going to negatively back you up in your stamina gauge so that you won't actually be able to take the next turn as quickly, but you can still cast that level 5 spell of some giant meteor rock or something like that. And that's the coolest thing about Chrono Cross, is that you're able to just make the combat however you kind of want. You can choose to use your larger spells. You can choose to just use a lot of weaker spells and keep your character moving in the rotation of combat. So just the versatility of the combat in itself is just fantastic. And I hear a lot of times people always diss well, there's 40 characters, too many characters, you never get enough time with those characters. But each character does have a little bit of a story to it. There is a little bit that's presented with each character. Now, I will give you, it's not as much as some other games, but I have a game to retort that coming down the line. But it is still fantastic because, like, each character you get, there's a little bit of something behind them, behind their moves, behind their mindsets. And one of the coolest things that I always really enjoyed about the game, because we love doing voice acting on my stream, is that in Chrono Cross, each character has like its own like text dialogue. So like each character speaks in a very different way, and the way you read it kind of helps envision those languages in your head. So you're like, wow, no, this person sounds like they have like a French accent, or this person sounds really rough and hard, like maybe a pirate would sound or something like that. So each character has like a different way of doing their speech. But I mean, I could just keep going on and on about this game. Probably one of the best graphics on the PlayStation 1, being so late in the PlayStation life. I mean, the 3D polygon effects was just phenomenal. The characters, animations, the smoothness in the animations in itself is fantastic. I mean, I literally sometimes catch myself just running around in circles, just watching Serge and his team follow each other in a line, the good old RPG trope, but just watching the smoothness in the frames of the character, just taking each step, running around and stuff. I love watching that because it's just a form of art. So my choice is definitely Chrono Cross. Why not? Because we got Chrono Trigger here, might as well do the sequel.
And I love, one thing that I like to key on is that I bought Chrono Cross when I got a PlayStation, or early, when I got a PlayStation, I bought Chrono Cross when it came out. And I remember as a child, not a child, a teenager, being disappointed that it wasn't Chrono Trigger 2. Yeah. And I'm glad that you bring that up, because years later, I go back to the game and I love it. It's a great game, and it's like why didn't I give it that respect? I could have been spending my Friday nights playing this instead of Ocarina of Time for the 10th time. It was
still worth it.
Yeah, it's still worth it, but I mean, 10th time. I mean, Scott, I don't want to hear from you. Jack, I don't want to hear from you yet. I'm still not over this. Nina, you're up.
Changing to Western RPG, I'm going with Planescape Torment. You play as a corpse coming back to life, and a flying skull head waking you up and telling you welcome back to the world. Apparently, you're some kind of a guy who decided to give up on his mortality in order to live forever, and trying to redeem himself for something that he has no idea what. The equipment, actually everything you can come across is actually eyes, legs, arms, and it's starting off really weird because you wake up in a cemetery and you need to escape outside because you're actually a live corpse and you should not be walking around. At the start of the game, you actually put what exactly you want your character to be like, more intelligent, more, you want him to have more wisdom, more strength. Actually, this game encourages you to be more witty than, powerful, because then you have actually more option to choose from in dialogue and conversation. And this is actually very, very important because it turns out that you were actually, in all of your life, you were a great warrior, thief, wizard, everything. And you can actually unlock more and more about your life only by dialogues. And you actually learn more about your companion only if you have exactly the dialogue to know what you're fighting from. Turns out that you were really a bastard in your previous life, and people still suffer for it from all over the ages. You actually get more stuff by dying, but the more you die, the more sort of like your ghost or something, every time you die, something awakes and hunts you. So you have more and more enemies to come across, but you actually get more and more stuff by dying. Now, this game actually features a lot of really interesting stuff. You have an ally and street giving birth to another street, and you have you need to pass from one world to another. You find out there's actually some kind of a goddess that keeps the world safe and don't want you to actually upsetting her, but she doesn't want you to worship her at all because that actually upsets her. And you have really peculiar cast of characters. You have a succubus that actually wants to stay chastised and doesn't want to actually expose herself. And she has an item in her inventory, diary, and you're not supposed to read it, as she said. You have a lot of talented voice actors, such as Tony J, the amazing Tony J, and it's actually a pretty good game. I know that the first time I picked it up because a friend recommended it to me, and I was, okay, this is weird. This is a very not traditional type of game. You're not actually the handsome hero, and you're not actually the good guy. But it's really, really worth a shot because there were so many moments where I was, what the hell am I playing? You need to actually decide if you want to support a war between mouse and zombies or actually side with one of them or trick whatever. It's really, really, really good game. The cast is amazing. I can go on and on about it, but I don't want to because it will be wrong to actually say what I think because I talk with a lot of people. Each and every one got their own experience from them. I know it actually affect my whole deal of what I want from stories regarding RPG because it actually set the whole what I need to see from my RPG to a very high level. I think the guy behind us is Chris Avalon, who actually draw a lot of other works. I know he has something to do with Baldur Gates. You can see a lot of mix between different myths. I saw some Sumerian, some Hebrew ones, some Christian one. It's really good. I like the fact that at some point you actually need to decide if you want to sell your companion to get more powerful weapons and spells, or if you want to actually shade your blood and HP in order to save someone. There is one moment in the game near the end that actually still freaks me out till this day, no matter how cartoonish it looks like. You actually speak with walls and you read the description and you see everything so vividly, and you know you have no way of turning back unless you sacrifice something. And at this point, if you were not prepared, you can actually even lose the whole saving of the progress until now. It's one of those games that you need to be actually prepared because everything that you do will affect on one. I actually like this stuff about plot in my games, where if you make a wrong turn or you're gonna lose something, like when everything is actually an agent, you need to be careful of what people tell you and to know there's always something that mismeets the eyes. I like the fact that it's actually one of the games that wants you to die, but at the same time, it's also a gamble. It's really, really good game. I really recommend it. I know there's a sequel right now in progress. Actually, wait on it. That's it right now.
Very cool. That sounds awesome. I've never played that, but I already have so little time, and now I'm getting a game that I need to put time into. So, all right. Well, that's worth it. Thank you, Nina. All right, which one of you? Okay, guy who owns Chrono Trigger and hasn't played it at all. Go.
So does that make me worse or?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure this out as we go along. So
actually played Chrono Cross though.
I have not done that either.
Go with the other one.
Yeah.
I'd make Scott go.
Jack, just give us your next one.
Okay. So I went a little obscure here, and there's one particular reason why I chose this game, and I'll save it for the end. But basically, I wanted to have a game that represented to the aliens. This is how mean game developers can be to their fans. Just so they have an idea of how much jerks they were sometimes. But the name of the game is the Grandstream Saga.
Oh, I thought you were
Yeah.
Say it again.
I thought you were going to say Unlimited Saga. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. And this one, this was released, I believe near the end of the 1990s. Was around that time. Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, those coming out around there. And it was one of the first, probably the first action RPGs I ever played. So I was very much used to Final Fantasy being characters are lined up on the right, bad guys on the left. There's, I've got 4 or 5 people in my group, and it's active time battle. I'm going to select an action, they're going to go. So this one is just one character in the fight, and it's all action RPG. You hit the button to swing. You've got a shield or can have a shield, that kind of stuff. So it was very much like that. It was a lot of the story was told via essentially anime cutscenes, which I thought were really well done. They looked gorgeous. The voice acting that was with them was really good. So all of that part was great. With the combat, there was one particular situation. As you defeated enemies, they basically dropped this kind of orb thing that was essentially the treasure after winning the battle. But if you elected not to take it, you could keep going and get a higher level treasure so long as you didn't get hit. If you go through consecutive battles without taking any damage, the higher a level essentially would be, and you get better stuff. So this was probably one of the first games where I cussed a lot, because I would get I'm 2 more fights and I'm going to unlock this awesome thing, and then I make one wrong move and get an axe to the side of the head. And I'm like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. So that was a source of frustration, but an entertaining source of frustration. So I like that. Mm-hmm. The reason I would put it on this list to show the aliens how mean we can be to each other. Over the course of the story, and I won't get too much into the story and everything like that for folks haven't played it, but you essentially you have your people that you work with and party with or whatever, and you go through the entire 30 plus hours of gameplay with these people, and there's a development of a kind of a love triangle. The main character and the two gals develop this kind of love triangle. And near the end of the game, and spoiler alert if you haven't played it, everyone cover your ears if you don't want to hear. To finish the game, to beat the big bad guy, you have to sacrifice one of these 2 girls. And even with the whole, everyone can agree probably that Aerith's death in Final Fantasy VII was terrible, but you had no control over it, right? You're sitting there watching this happen. This one, they make you pick it. You have to pick the person you're going to essentially kill. And I remember playing it, getting to this part and going, no, I'm not doing this. Put the controller down and walked away. I mean, I seriously walked away and was contemplating, what do I do? I don't know how to go through with this. It was terrible. And it was like, but, it was a good terrible, I guess, because it had me feeling, the endings would differ. Because I eventually did redo it and choose the other one. The endings would differ depending on who you picked and everything like that. But it was just just a slap in the face. But they get you so heavily invested in these characters, and then you get something like that. So that was the reason that I put this game in there, so that aliens could play that and go, "Geez, these guys were jerks." How did they do that?
One thing that I like is that one thing that I really can appreciate in a game, and I've never played this game, and that sounds like the one of the worst decisions that you have to make in a game. But one thing that I can appreciate in games and in storytelling is the gravity of a death in a character. Actually killing a character. I used to read an author who's from Massachusetts who wrote fantasy that I will not mention his name, but he didn't want to kill his characters ever, and now he eventually did, but then he brought him back to life because magic, and that's the problem when you're living in that type of world, I guess. And I don't like that, because if you killed that character and they're immediately brought back to life, when Eris, whatever, I don't know, when she dies, she's dead. She's dead. She's in the life stream. That's it. You have to deal with it. Deal with the fallout. Deal with your feelings. It's important, but the gravity of that death hangs on you. It's like, oh, you've not only lost a party member, you've lost that character's story. They're now they no longer carry on. Which always is like, whoa, that's heavy. And that's what I think that you probably experienced with that game, is that, okay, now I have to kill this character that I've attached myself to somehow, and I don't want to do it. So that's a mean game. That's a very mean game.
It was mean.
But very cool pick. We'll let I'm getting over the Chrono Trigger thing now. So, Scott,
we're up.
What you got?
Oh gosh, oh my God, you won't believe it, Hulk. I'm on debating right now. The World Ends With You, i.e. It's a Wonderful World, or Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days. I'm leaning on the Kingdom Hearts more or less.
Okay.
Why? Well, I'm a big Advent fan of the whole Kingdom Hearts series. Started out on the 1, played through 2. I don't want to ruin any plot in case, there's people out there that haven't played KH. But once you play 2, right, you always realized, okay, well, there's Organization 13, a whole bunch of nobodies. Who are these guys? What's their internal politics look like? And you're wondering, as the gamer playing through 2 the whole time, even when they released Final Mix, you're always thinking, well, yeah, it's fun to fight Marluxia, Axel, Vexen, all them, but you never really know their personalities, who they really are. And, well, mind you, Kingdom Hearts, they're still working out the kinks in that, because, with Birth by Sleep, they added in this whole, now it's, you got a nobody, but now you've got a somebody as well, and it's like, oh my God, heads are turning. I can't grasp what is going on at this point. But when I played 358 over 2 days, I remember being, I think I was 15 years old at the time, and the game features everything about Roxas. And in number 2, you play a little bit of Roxas, and then the storyline it's completely on Sora, because Roxas was his nobody. So throw him in the garbage. He's out. And
this isn't your game, Roxas.
Yeah, literally, it's like, goodbye, Roxas, it's Sora back. But anyway, so you're playing 358 over 2 days, and the whole, the first part of the introduction, you're thinking, okay, are you guys just gonna, let me play with Roxas and then, shoo him off again, or what are we doing? And you slowly get to actually envelop in this intriguing political system that works in Organization 13. And not only that, but they actually add a 14th member named Shion. And I'm not going to ruin it for you guys. You got to play the game, find out, what happens to her and whatnot. But you actually see this adorable love triangle between Shion, Roxas, and Axel. And, most of the game, it is a Kingdom Hearts game, so remember, it's button mashing the attack button, hoping that Roxas does a different attack, but realistically, he doesn't. But the story itself, I mean, you're even given this brief diary, and it's like it recaps every single day leading up to the 358 days you spend in the organization. Realistically, I really don't think it gets the attention it really deserves. Like I said, Kingdom Hearts 1 was on PlayStation 2, Kingdom Hearts 2, the same ordeal. So that's on, big consoles. It's not, the little DS trying to function out there.
Yep.
And so, realistically, when it comes down to it, Final Fantasy 12 was my first pick on all this, but I just really think 358 over 2 days deserves that attention. You're constantly seeing, like I said, the intermediate politics of Organization 13. If Vexen isn't coming and bringing hell down on you, then it's Marluxia or it's Larxene. So I really think at the end of the day, although, it's, again, a story about Roxas, and at the end of the day, he does leave Organization 13 and moves on and la-di-da, it still was an in-depth game that you got to finally see the characters of Organization 13, which in the future, I really hope that, because they introduced in Birth by Sleep, Axel had an actual somebody named Lee. So all the organization members have the original names of their somebody, but with an X in their actual title. So I'm just hoping in the future, Kingdom Hearts 3, it's around the corner. I'm hoping. Come on, Square Enix. I just really hope that they kind of foundate that and just close up the loose ties, because I really do want to know, who was Marluxia before he became a nobody? Who was this guy? Why is he even involved in the story if we're not going to go in depth with him? You know what I mean?
No, I hear you.
That's
a decent pick.
Yep.
So I, one thing that I do have is I have all the, I have all the collections of Kingdom Hearts now. So at some point when, I'm 50, and all my kids are out of the house, I'll be able to get to them. And
you won't be mistaken.
Yeah, I, the funny thing is that I never played through Kingdom Hearts 1. I played through Kingdom Hearts 2, and I remember finishing it and being like, the hell is that all about? And just like being like, I don't know what just happened.
Right. Well, I played through 1 and then played through 2 and then also asked that same question. So it's like, it didn't necessarily matter. I was still kind of like, yeah, I have no idea what just happened.
Yeah, same case with me. I played through 1. I was like, oh, these Gumby ships, that's interesting. And then 2, I started 2 and I was like, this just isn't for me. Full premise. Like the Disney, like the Square characters, but I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Somebody's heartless. Yeah. Oh, so much.
Like, I was just like, and then somebody's like, is this about Kingdom Hearts? I'm like, in the game they said that, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, man.
Door to light!
I'm like, don't be asking me questions that I don't know. Oh, God. But, no, it deserves respect, and I respect the pick. I haven't played the game, so like I said, eventually I will. Thank you, Scott.
Anytime.
Boom.
Yes. That's a good one.
This game.
Talk about it.
Is just whoa. Now I'm just floating in.
Yeah, midair.
There we go. So again, I have to tell people what everybody is seeing, what Ages is excited about. Grandia 2, and I on the background of my screen right now I have the Anniversary Edition. I got the game for the Dreamcast, and I played it on the Dreamcast, and it was awesome. Grandia 2 on the Dreamcast might be one of the best RPGs I've ever played. And it deserves so much respect. It is a beautiful looking game to begin with. The graphics are tremendous. You start off as Ryudo, who's a geohound, which is basically a mercenary or whatever. And you kind of fall into this story with the Church of Granis, who's a god, and there's Valmar, who's also a god. But are they? And that it becomes this, Valmar's the evil of the world, and Granis is the good of the world, and the there's this idea that at one point Granis sliced Valmar with this sword and left a big rift in the world, and everybody thinks that Granis won and evil was defeated, but the pieces of Valmar are hanging around the world, and it's and encompass people, and you play Ryudo, who is hired to take care of a songstress, and you take her to a temple for a prayer to banish evil, and in the middle of the night, there's screaming from the temple. Ryudo runs in. There's monsters everywhere. Everybody's like, "Oh God!" The other priestesses are dead, or dying. Whatever state you're running into them. And you find the songstress, and she has these black wings on her. Nina, there you go. the black wings.
I'm squealing.
See, and everybody's like, did you see the wings on? Ryudo mentions to the priest when he brings her back, that she had black wings on her, and the priest is, it's just, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's good information to know. Well, what the wings represent are a part of Valmar. They're the wings of Valmar, so to speak. And you are then put into the story of trying to, cure the songstress. Is her name Elena? I can't remember her name. And you run into a character, is it Melania? Millennia, that's who it is. And she represents kind of the wings of Valmar. And it's this, you start off just thinking, oh, it's good versus evil, you have to destroy Valmar. But it becomes so much more convoluted than that. And the graphics for the Dreamcast, I remember getting a Dreamcast and thinking, this is the best graphics they're going to get. This is it, guys. We've hit it, And they're tremendous. They're a little cartoony, but very awesome looking. The way the story starts to go is not a way you think that is not the way it goes. And it's, there's it, and it gets dark. It gets very dark. And then it gets, and then it, just the different characters that come into your party and then leave your party, I don't want to spoil it if for people who haven't played this game.
I haven't, and I'm so booked on it right now, so let's spoil it.
You can if you want to play this game, it's now available on Steam. It's the anniversary edition. It is beautiful, still as beautiful as I remember it. It is worth a play. The music is great. The sound effects are great. There's voice acting. Ryudo is voiced by Cam Clark, who voice acts everything. He is everyone and anyone. And so the second that you hear Ryudo speak, you're going to know who it is. You're just like, oh, that's Cam Clark. Yep. The battle system. The battle system is so cool because it gives you basically an arena. Everybody is on a timer, but you see everybody's timer. You can interrupt attacks. You can, try to avoid an AoE. This is the battle system is just so much fun. And it takes work. It takes work to get used to. The animations for spells, like when you use the when you use the Wings of Valmar, spoiler alert, you get to use the Wings of Valmar. You know, it's just so much fun. The graphics are so beautiful. The game is I remember seeing the way I learned about Grandia 2 was on XPlay, when it was on ZD TV, Ziff Davis Television, which became Tech TV, which then became G4. And I remember seeing the preview on that, and I was like, I want that. I want to play that game. And they were like, this game is going to be amazing. And it was. Grandia 2 is anything and everything a JRPG should be. So that would be what? That's my third pick. Wow, we're already on third picks. Here we go. So,
can I just say though? I mean, that is
yes.
an excellent pick. I'm so glad somebody picked Grandia 2, because I was like, man, Grandia 1, Grandia 2. I'm gonna go 1 because it fits the theme, but Grandia 2 deserves a high mention. Absolutely, I fully support that game. It is phenomenal for all the right reasons you just said.
Mm-hmm. Just a fantastic game. I love it, and I'm gonna play through it again very soon, because it's just it's one of those games that I love to play, that I love, that I go back to, even though I don't think anything will change. Nothing will really change for me. It's just gonna be fun, and the battle system just keeps me playing it, I feel, and the story is just so well done. So Aegis, we'll go to you.
All right, so mine's kind of a weird, funky one. I know we got to choose one, but you kind of need both of them to kind of make it as awesome as it is. So my choice is Suikoden 1 and 2, because you need to complete 1 and play 2 with that 108-star completion, because it opens up so much cool stuff in the game. Suikoden is an interesting series for me, and I'll just talk about it a little bit here, because I first actually started off hating that series. I thought that series was garbage. Anything that was associated with the name Suikoden was the joke that I've been running with here is the unlimited saga. It's like that's terrible, terrible series. It wasn't until I actually played the PSN version of Suikoden 2, and that's because everybody was like, "Oh, dude, this game is rare. It's like $100 on eBay and stuff." And I'm like, "Oh man, I'll never get to play that." And I'm like, "Oh, $10. All right." I played 3. I played 4, just a little bit, and I never understood anything. I didn't know what was going on. It just was a terrible experience for me. But I played 2, and within an hour, I was like, there is something to this game that is extremely magical. And I was like, I need to play this, but I need to play it correctly. I was like, I can't just jump into 2 and play this. I was like, I need to play 1. So I bought 1. The next thing I did was just buy 1 and start playing that. And having played through 1 and all the way through 2, I've never had a more emotional experience playing a game than Suikoden 2. Suikoden 1 definitely had those moments, and I feel like it was a little bit more leveled as far as engagement. There were a lot of high moments. There were some small lower moments where it got really kind of emotional and stuff. But Suikoden 2 racked that to 53 out of 10. Just demolished the scale. There are so many moments where I was moved to tears. I was pumped, screaming at my television. That is exactly right. The Matilda Knights, that scene right there where they totally do their thing. I'm not going to spoil anything because everyone should play this. When they did what they did, the Matilda Knights, and they just totally went off, that scene was so moving to see that actually happen. And don't get me wrong, there are some moments in this game I absolutely dread having to go back through. The Two Rivers scene, that whole section, I hate the whole racial thing, but it's perfect for it because that's part of the series. It's all about war. It's all about racial things, how they hate the kobolds and they hate the wingers and stuff, and the humans, and they all kind of don't like each other, but then it all came together and was part of the battle plans. I don't really care for the war mechanics. That's another aspect of it, but the storytelling the characters. Tur returns in Suikoden 2, and he's my favorite character out of everything. He has an instant death kill spell. Like, that's, you first get him and you play for a few hours, you get, you know, his rune and stuff like that, and you're like, oh, what's this level 1 spell? Let me just use it. Boop. Oh, it dies immediately. I have death level 1 spell. This is fantastic. I'm going to play the game like this. And it's interesting, too, because we've been talking about music. And the music of, like, Chrono Cross, the music of Grandia, a lot of the Final Fantasies, everything else, has all been fantastic. I'm not saying Suikoden 2 or 1 doesn't have fantastic music, but it's in the weirdest places. Like, the combat battles, like bosses and stuff like that, I can't really remember a whole lot of, like, the tunes. I can kind of recall them, but I'm like, oh, well, they're all right. They got you through the battle. But it was the town music. It was the music that you were in, like, the different towns and stuff, or the cities, and I was like, man, I really remember that because they were so rich in just building that environment. So for the music of Suikoden, it actually is better for, like, town music, for the different cities you go to, than the actual combat. So it was very interesting to see kind of the flip-flop on the music in that aspect. But nothing can be said with the story. I mean, the story behind the 27 true runes and just the war-ridden land and how every game builds off each other, and there's all these true runes and the mystery behind them, and we don't even know all the 27 true runes. We only know, like, a fraction of them because they never finished all the games. So, like, you as a fan of Suikoden are like, oh my goodness, what are the rest of the runes? Like, what did they do? What were the different characters that had them and stuff? And I mean, Suikoden 2, okay, for the longest time, Kefka was the coolest villain of all time. He accomplished everything. He took over the world. He blew it up in a way. It's still there, but it's racked and ruined. He did what he accomplished. He ruined the world for the most part. You know, heroes come back, save the day, blah, blah, blah. But Luca Blight, I swear to goodness, is the coolest villain in any RPG I've ever played. And it's because they humanize him in such a sadistical kind of way. Like, he is literally the tyrant you want to take down so bad. And just the whole scene of when your accompaniment basically gets word of his invasion, his sneak invasion coming into your land, and you're like, oh, we found out about it because of the spy, now we're going to go in and we're going to take him down. It takes 3 parties of 6, so Sweden did the whole 6-party battles. Took 3 parties of that, and you took them on in waves. And eventually, like, his lackeys, like, die off instantly because they're pathetic and weak. But he's still standing there, and he literally is ripping through your waves of characters. You're like, holy shoot. You don't even need to win with the first 2 waves, because the last wave is what's important. You need to beat that last one. And it's just so interesting just how, like, menacing this character is. He literally, I mean, obviously you can beat him, but through the methods of what the game presents it to, I mean, he takes a wave of arrows, then you have to do a one-on-one duel, and, like, if you screw that up, you got to start all over again, and it's just laughing at you the entire time. I mean, just, and at the very end, when he's about to die, he's just like, look how many people I've killed, look how long it's taken you to do this. I have accomplished my goal in slaying people, and he's like, he just snaps. He's just insane, and for that, I love that character. He is a fantastic villain because behind his motivation actually, like, is reasonable. You understand, like, his character. You read about it a little bit because the game doesn't explain it in such great detail, but he is actually motivated because his mother was treated, I'm not even going to go into detail, but very, very poorly, and his father was just absolutely, I can't remember exactly, but just wasn't a very good father, and he just had this horrible upbringing that made him think the way he was doing things was acceptable, was a good thing to do, and was okay because he had the mentality of royalty. He was above everybody else. He could do whatever he wants. There's one scene in the village where he basically is taking down this village, and this woman's like, spare me, spare my life. And he says, fine, I'll spare you. You need to crawl around and start oinking like a pig. I want you to squeal. So she does. She sinks to the ground, starts oinking like a pig, walks around, and then he says, "Die, you skunk," and just chops her head off. And you're like, what just happened? Like,
Wow.
these scenes in this game literally bring out all the emotions you can think about. It's just, Suikoden literally is one of those special series for me, because I grew up hating the series, and I didn't understand it. But having played 1 and 2 and going back through 3 now, I have changed 100% on this whole ordeal of Suikoden. I love this series. This series is fantastic. The 108 stars, you have so many characters, and each character has some type of special role. They do something that's unique for your army, whether it's selling you items in a shop, whether it's giving you special skills, whether it's giving you support actions, or they join you in combat. There's unites, there's magic, there's all kinds of cool things. Suikoden absolutely deserves recognition for these silly aliens that find all these fantastic games. This game and how it relates to that theme is it shows you war, and it does it in a way that is very realistic to what war would be like for us in today's time, just, you know, without the magic and all that kind of stuff, but just how no one's really truly evil. Maybe Luke a little bit, but they're never absolutely evil. They all have motivations for what they're trying to accomplish, whether it's trying to gain more land, whether it's trying to protect their loved ones, whether it's trying to just be a hero. Suikoden envelops that kind of story. It is a fantastic tale of war and how realistic it is to wars that basically envelop our culture in a way. So that is my choice. I cheat 1 and 2 of Suikoden. Sue me. I can't help it.
Maybe they find a box set or something, you know.
Yeah, I mean maybe we can maybe they could do what Kingdom Hearts did and just combine them and you know, put all the games into one collection. No, I agree with you. I think the Suikoden set is just amazing, and I'm glad that it was included here, just because I ran out of spots, and I was like, I need somebody to say that, because if nobody does, I'm gonna feel really dumb.
I feel like the two of you actually like talk together before it, and like, okay, you say this and you say that. Because...
Okay, we're gonna have issues with the Skype before, so it's gonna really just show that, you know, we did talk, but actually we've been best friends for like years. So, you know.
It's all going according to plan.
Mwah.
Of course.
Okay, but excellent. So, all right, Nina, you're up.
This is the third pick, right?
Yes.
Oh my god. Okay. I'm going to go with Diablo 2.
What was that one?
I'm going to go with Diablo 2. The second Diablo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I would include the first, but there was not much to go on it, despite the fact I love it. Wow. I got the second game already when the expansion came out, so I can't talk about what was before. I spent a lot of time on that. I think it was a wonderful game. Again, the whole thing of angel demons, that's my thing, so that's why I'm picking it. I don't want to go about how shitty the third turned out to be, so I won't say it. Too bad the original cast didn't stay on that, but Blizzard, so yeah. So while it was still the pure holy Blizzard nerd, it was really good. I think there was much to do on it. It was good. I think it was... I remember it as being like really good. I know that right now I will turn back on it and it won't excite me the way it used to be. Maybe because like so many times. There's just those titles that you know that you have a spot for them. Like, you know, those were really good games. You would recommend them. I don't see myself going back to them, but I know it has really good story for that time. The music was really good for that time. I like the fact that you could actually try and customize your character as much as you could. There were a lot of options that back then I didn't saw from other games. especially the online one. So it's really good compared to other ports. Yeah, so that's it.
No, I think that's a genuinely good pick, because I think that what we see with that is that, you know, music from like Diablo games and everything is always environment for me. It's you know,
it's the scenario, like
exactly.
the opening of the expansion opening, I think was of the best in it. Like, I was like, why is it not a movie? It was awesome. Opening.
With even in Diablo 1, the music of Tristram and everything, that was the name of the town, right? Yeah. I mean, when you were there and you had the, you know, the twang of the guitar, and then you have like, you know, just a whistle through the air, and it feels, you know, like you said, it puts you in that setting.
Yeah.
And I think that game did a good job of that. You know, 3 is what it is. You know, we'll survive it. Don't worry. You know, we'll get through. But you know, it's that's a good pick. Genuinely, enjoy it. I enjoyed it tremendously.
I like the fact that it has changeable mazes. Like, you never know where you're going to be or what you're going to hit. Like, you can be completely like prepared and then just die, and it's a really shame, especially if you're on a hardcore character. So yeah.
Very cool. Thank you, Nina. Rin, what you got?
I'm gonna bring it back to Final Fantasy, but not the numbered series. I'm gonna go with Tactics, and this one, I put this on the list, and I don't know if the aliens will feel the same way about it, but I put it on the list because this is one that I will just randomly replay. I will just be sitting doing something completely different or whatever, and then all of a sudden, oh, I need to play Final Fantasy Tactics. I have to stop what I'm doing now and go do that.
I need to go play this game.
Right, I'm sorry. I'm in the middle of a meeting. No, I gotta go. I gotta go play this game. So, yeah, it's one that I will replay just constantly, probably 2-3 times a year. I'll go through it again. And you know, and again, kind of in the same vein of the rest of the Final Fantasy games, there was a good score, good soundtrack to it. I don't think it was as strong as some of the other ones, but still, I mean, you know, a lot of the battle themes and things like that, you know, got you kind of hyped up where you're about to take on an army, right? So yeah, so they did their job in that respect, but I don't think it's as strong as, say, some of the other ones. But the gameplay, one of the first you know, kind of strategy type RPG games I've ever played, with the charge time battle system. But I liked it a lot. I thought it was great. The job class system, I still don't know if I've necessarily seen it done better than the way they did it there. You know, I'm sure there's probably some examples, but none I can think of right now. That it was one of the best job class systems that I've experienced. The story itself is definitely one of my favorite parts, and I could have completely done without any of the supernatural parts of it. I could have taken that completely out and still would have been very excited about the game. I love the medieval political intrigue, everybody stabbing everybody else in the back. And I was enthralled with just that. You know, of course, the other parts were good too, but that one I was like, yeah, who's gonna betray who next? I'm looking forward to seeing this. And yeah, I just thought it was great. And really that in the job class system, you know, I'll go back and play it again and say, well, this time I'm going to, you know, level up this character that I never usually play, and I'm going to level them up and take them to their game and see, you know, how they do. And yeah, I seriously, 2 or 3 times a year I'll start it over again and play it through. So yeah, that's why I would pick that one for the aliens.
Well, good call. Scott, what you got?
After much debating, I have come down to bring it again to the Final Fantasy series. And Hulk, it's gonna be Final Fantasy X. Ba-bomb. Anyway, no, but realistically, why I chose this game is because, honestly, Tidus, Yuna, love affair, Tidus, Jecht, son and father's confidence issues. Honestly, when this game came out, it was the exact opposite of, let's say, Final Fantasy XII, where all the characters are trying to find freedom in their own self-conscious way. Tidus, you look at him, he's an athletic guy. The first opening's Otherworld, he's playing, Blitzball. He's in like a giant dome sphere, going up against Albed players. The gameplay might have been, a little bit, active, wait, time gauge, whatnot. But it was just the story that really brought you in. I mean, that time I really believed when Square Enix got, I guess, a budget for voice acting, they used it to good use in Final Fantasy X, and I really think just the voices of Yuna, Kamari, Lulu, Waka, even Riku, oh my gosh, they're unforgettable. And they employed individuals that weren't so much already popular in the voice acting scene. Because I've noticed, like, the same person who played Axel in Kingdom Hearts, unfortunately, plays Luffy of One Piece, plays Iruka from Naruto. There's a lot of the same individual just being sent through the same sanctions, unfortunately. So when that game was released, I found that it was like fresh blood, new voices, and not only that, it was just the love affair between Tidus and Yuna, going in, stopping Seymour or whatever. It was a lot of fun and a lot of hype for that time, especially when, we're talking about a Square Enix. Well, nope, that was a Squaresoft, actually, that developed FF10 at the time. They had, just stuck to dialogue, not so much CGI graphics. We were definitely seeing that a lot in 10. And I just felt like, if a bunch of aliens were to try to remember the human world after the apocalypse, however it is, I think that'd definitely be a great game for them to play just to see on, I guess you could say, human affection, true love. There you go. Sutaki Dane was just an amazing song composed by Nobuo Uematsu, and I think it summed up the love affair between Tidus and Yuna and throughout the whole game. I really think it was a pinnacle. I only pray that hopefully in the future, not Sarah and Noel, but a similar love affair could be, maybe even like Final Fantasy 15 with Noctis. I don't know, but it seems more and more as the company goes on, they have different plans. So it is what it is. But I definitely would want to see Final Fantasy X shown to the aliens, just for the concepts of love. Maybe they'll understand it in better retrospect.
That's a good explanation.
Thanks.
Especially that laughing scene. I think the laughing scene would really help the aliens understand.
Thanks, Alec.
Where we're coming from. But yeah, no, it's a decent pick. I think that it's a decent Final Fantasy to be picked too. So we've already talked about Final Fantasy VI a little bit, so I'm not going to go for too long. But Final Fantasy VI is my fourth pick. And aside from everything, it's like two games. You're getting two games in one. You have the World of Balance and the World of Ruin. You have Terra being kind of the main show in the World of Balance. You have Celeste being more of the main show to begin the World of Ruin. However, Terra is they're bridging characters and everything. The amount of characters is great. I like Jack said, I don't need a Morrow who, suddenly joins your party because you were wandering the mines, and you're like, oh, Yeti, yes, totally join us. Why not?
Yeah.
You're not dangerous.
Sure.
Get on the airship. This will be fun. You have never been on this thing in your life. How are you going to react? I mean, Jesus, I get scared when I fly. How do you think a wild animal is going to react on that airship? Anyways,
I kind of imagine Setzer like saying, "I'm not cleaning up after that thing."
Yeah.
It's Han Solo and Chewbacca right there.
Oh God. Yep. There you go. But just the fact that you can find everyone's story, you can follow everyone's story. They all have a story, with the exception of like really Gogo and Umaro, who are the two extras, so to speak. But it it's and like I said, even though the game does get the dialogue gets a little aged as we move forward, it's still a great Final Fantasy, and it's still a great RPG. Everything has been said about Final Fantasy VI that needs to be said, so I'll concede my time. So, Ages, what you got?
Just real quick, Final Fantasy VI is absolutely a fantastic game. I really do. I think I've even mentioned before because it was brought up before, but it's one of those games where that opening, it really sets the tone for the whole game. I mean, it's so cinematography, just the mechs walking through that snowy field and stuff, and the text credits rolling through. It's like watching a movie and then you play an awesome game. So yeah, I love that opening. It really does set the mood. But for my next pick, I guess this is going to be number 4, right? We're going to go with a very interesting, very in-depth, very heavy game called Xenogears. Now, this game I have so much history with. We originally picked up I believe it was Parasite Eve produced, and it came with a demo disc of Xenogears on it. I remember playing this and falling in love with this game. I played that demo disc for months until I was able to actually get a copy of Xenogears, and I was not let down. Xenogears is one of those games where it's not for everybody. It's a very heavy, very analytical depth type of game. We actually just completed this on the stream, and I've had an amazing time going back through this game. This game has it all. It has martial arts. It's got giant mechs that you get to ride around and blast other mechs around and stuff like that. It's got a plot that literally is probably one of the most confusing, but at the same time pleasurable, because you're just trying to piece everything together. Because a lot of things that you experience in an RPG is a lot of fluff talk. You know, you go into a city and they got fluff talk, and then you get, monologue from this character, and you're like, all right, breeze through it and stuff. But each character has something that they're saying, and it means something, and it has it basically ties into the whole story. Xenogears is one of those special games for me that it just had so many things that fit together. I mean, a lot of people have come to understand of it as a classic. You look a lot of like top 10 RPGs, PS1, you'll start seeing Xenogears pop up more and more. But back in the day when it first came out, it wasn't as well known. I mean, it was good, but a lot of people were like, oh, that second disc. And yes, the second disc is not as what it should be, but it does it in a way that makes you appreciate the story because it focuses on the story. That is a game that you play for the story. I mean, the button combinations and stuff that you can make your own moves and you can use death blows, and like, it's very basic, but it's super enjoyable. You want to throw out heavy attacks, go throw out heavy attacks. You want to use strong or weak attacks, you can build them up. You can do combos, so you can save your AP gauge up and then just unleash a ton of death blows. You can break the game in so many different ways. That game, it screams just in-depth stuff, because I mean, Faye as a character alone, you always start off not liking Faye, but then once you start understanding who Faye is and just where he's at in the story and stuff, you're like, wait, this makes total sense. He's like a child in a way. His understanding of the world is so naive. He's so innocent about a lot of things. Yeah, his emotional aspect of stuff is to react heavily to things, just to lash out because he doesn't know better because of certain things that progress down the line and you find out through multiple playthroughs because it's super confusing. But it's filled with so many things. And with an RPG, like Breath of Fire 2 was a prime example, religion was a very central tone in the game. And Xenogears definitely doesn't go light on that subject matter at all. There is some very heavy topics that get involved. You've got reincarnation, you've got death on multiple levels, you've got basically the Solian green system going on, you've got giant mechs that are being infused with AI, actual living beings, you have multiple tiers of personality disorders. I mean, just insane amount. And then, of course, you have that Yosunori Mitsuda amazing soundtrack that has just appeared in all of many of the different selections, Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, and now Xenogears. He is probably one of my absolute favorite composers. I just love his music. There are so many tunes that just ring in my head, and none of them are those loud banging music where, like Breath of Fire 2 has that amazing battle theme, that dun, 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 it doesn't have that. It's that music that basically builds that atmosphere. I love those type of games where it just builds the atmosphere, where it's brooding. It makes you question what's going on here. There's mutated mutants that have mutated further beyond, that want to eat your flesh, and they have like responses to you and stuff, and they trick you. And the game tries to do a lot. It's a very, very ambitious game. You can see when you play through it a lot. They're like, here's a puzzle. All right, you're probably not going to ever use that puzzle idea again, but we thought that was really cool. We wanted to add that. And just every character is super important. Like, some of them do get played down a little bit, like Rico's story doesn't get a whole lot. Esmeralda definitely is not as centralized as a lot of people would like her to be, but like Faye, Ellie, Bart, Satan, all of them, they really get some heavy stuff, and like, you just fall in love with these characters. They're just so real, so interesting, so complex. Like, Satan as a character alone goes through so many stages of, I like you, I hate you, what are you doing, why are you doing this, now I'm not sure if you're a good guy, are you a bad guy, no, you're still a good guy, okay, I don't know what's going on. But just there's so much in this game. I could go on for hours, but just literally the opening really sets it up great. You're in a town, you're going to see the dock because you're going to go help out with a wedding, and then all of a sudden these giant mechs land, and you're like, oh shoot, what is going on? And then all of a sudden your character's like, I'm jumping in this thing and I'm fighting back, and you're like, dude, empowerment of extreme. I feel like I'm in a giant mech and I'm going to take on the world. Let's do this. And the different stages and just the religious aspects and everything that's involved with Xenogears, I can go on forever, but this game just deserves a playthrough from everyone. And I will not say that everybody will like it either. These aliens that get a hold of this are going to be like, wow, okay, so there's this giant alien thing that's known as God that's in this game. Are they referencing us, and are they going to take us out? I would say this is a great game for, the future aliens that come check out these amazing games. This is a game that really capitalizes on how far a story, a tale can be told, how deep and complex you can get a story in a type of game. How far can the human society be able to develop a story within a game in a time frame? So that's my choice with Xenogears, an amazing game.
Most definitely deserves its spot on this. I completely agree, and I'm a little bit upset that I didn't pick it. So
it was on my list.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh no.
Yes.
So,
but that's good though, and yeah, you totally cleared the vast majority of what I was gonna say, so we're good. You covered it.
So good. All right, I don't have to do Jack now. So good. Now, Nina, what you got?
Okay, my last two picks, just a note ahead, are going to be a much more advanced title, because they are just simply better than a lot of other stuff I had in mind. And I've been through a lot, like Lufia, Sword of Mana, Secret of Mana, and a lot. I'm going to go with the second Witcher. It's just a masterpiece. I'm just so sad that it's like they took so much ideas from the first, and the third is really great, but is not as good as the second one. And the second Witcher, going again with the choosing system, which I love, the fact that you can change the whole outcome of your story just by picking which side you want to go with. It's dark, it's mature, it's great music. I don't enjoy the battle system as much as I did the third, but it's really a challenge of a game, especially when you can be given a quest and you don't know exactly how many times you can be tricked and by who. Sometimes you need to actually decide if you want to go ahead and do whatever the one who asks you to do something do, or actually solve the case differently and suffer consequences, which is great. The story itself is wonderful. Doug is doing a great voice acting as Geralt. I like a lot of games with second in them, so yeah. That's my choice for the fourth title.
Cool. Witcher 2, the Witcher series as a whole, I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's but I agree. I picked up The Witcher 3, and I just haven't put the time towards it, like I think I should. But I feel I should just because I like 2.
Surprisingly, I went back to the first, and it actually wasn't as bad as I remember it was. I actually finished it 2 more times just to make sure. All of them were.
Is this really that good?
Yeah, all of them. Like, I remember when I started, I was like, okay. It took me a while to get into it, but once you actually inside it, you actually have less difficulty to actually experience it. The third is actually great, but because you feel like it's the ending, I feel like it's kind of draw you off a bit sometimes. I think a lot of ending titles suffer this because, this is going to be the last, and once you're in it, you don't want actually to push all the way in because then the story ends. The third is actually amazing in so many levels, but the second really has the charm. I'm going to go with the second.
Alrighty. Scott, what you got?
I know I said this before, it was Kingdom Hearts or World Ends With You, but I definitely have to talk a little bit more in depth about the World Ends With You, i.e., It's a Wonderful World. Loved it. Most amazing pinnacle game on the DS that was able to be a complete nostalgic crossover. Originally, this game was only published in Japan. It had no hopes to make to North America or to Europe. And with a steady fan base, enough individuals promoted it, and they managed to translate it, bring it over. I have to say, the characters, Neku, antisocial, I think it was like 18 years old, in a world full of noise. The location is Shibuya, so we're talking like very metropolitan style of Japan. Game style is based on what they call a cross-slide battle system. So, again, this game is only published on the Nintendo DS. Top screen would be, you'd be Neku or his female companion, Sakura. And you'd pretty much grab these pins. They look similar to materia. If you're familiar with the Final Fantasy series, those little cute little orbs, magical powers, similar idea, but they're pins. Every pin you would swipe on the touch screen would give you certain abilities for Neku. And, they included kind of like similar to Limit Break or to Mist or, quickening attacks. It's like your ultimate attack for this character. But what really pulled me in was the story. Neku was extremely antisocial. He kind of had an entitled personality. It was like the world owed him something just because, his parents were murdered. And he was brought to an alternative world of Shibuya, which was then, given the Reaper game. He was entered into that, and you see him go through so many psychological changes from being an antisocial person who just clearly enjoys his solitude to an amazing individual who just connects with every single one of the characters, whether it's Rhyme or Beat. So I know these names are very comedical, but Rhyme, Beat, Connor, you see him really blossom into an amazing character, and you just don't see that in this day and age. I mean, even with the Final Fantasy series, I'm an individual who's loved it since day one. I've got a few tattoos dedicated to the Final Fantasy series, but I have to say, just you start to really sit back, and I'm a very complex, deep individual, and you see that there's a lot of general, characteristics, general behaviors, general even plot line, lineage So when I picked up The World Ends With You, you know, that's what got me, was the title, The World Ends With You. And, you know, you see this whole adventure with Neku, and the music, it's kind of like urban. So we're talking like urban Japanese, even I guess you could classify it as Japanese hip hop. And it grows on you time to time, but like I said, it's realistically about the story. It's very modernized. It's not one of these, you know, back with Final Fantasy II. It's like you're in an old kind of medieval timeline. You know, it's nothing compared to like Final Fantasy 12, where, you know, they've got airships, they have some sort of advanced technology, and Final Fantasy has always been doing this for years. You know, one spin-off of an installation will be just kind of more traditional, older time lifestyle, like an 18th century understanding, and then the newer ones are like more 21st or 30th century, whatever you want to call it, futuristic. So again, when it came down to The World Ends With You, I just felt it was one of those dark horses. You don't see it often, you don't hear from it often, it's not really well played, but I think that's what makes it a beautiful treasure. It's something that's not ridiculed or generalized in this video game kind of Clash world, right? And that's why definitely I would have to pick it as one of my 5 JRPGs. Again, if you're ever, you know, looking for a JRPG that you haven't, you know, once you play them all, you play one, you play them all, in a sense. This one just knocked it right out of the water. Definitely the dark horse in the tournament, and worth spending, you know, what is it, $20 on the Nintendo DS? Download an emulator if you can't afford it. Come on, you know.
Well, I will have to check it out, as I haven't ever played it, but definitely it's something that you know. The cool thing is that we can all hear people are going to hear this, and some people will be like, yeah, I played all those, whatever, shut up, everyone.
Right?
You know, but some people will listen to this and go, I've never played Xenogears, or you know, or The World Ends With You, or, you know, I mean, these are all games that people should probably play.
As much as you hate it, I learned about Chrono Trigger from you.
Oh my God.
Sometimes it's a region problem, like I told you. Not all the areas get all the games. I needed to play a lot of, in my time, in emulator, because the games were not here until recently. So that's a problem.
Yeah.
Darn government.
So.
Yeah.
No, so. Jack, did you want to expand upon Xenogears at all?
I think mostly everything was there. The big things I was going to point out were the kind of mature themes that were throughout, and the religious aspects of it as well. Again, it was complex, and it took a little to understand exactly what was going on, but that made me like it even more. And like I said, the maturity of the themes and things like that. So that's really the only thing I was going to add.
Very cool. All right, so we've made it, people. We are on the last pick.
Oh no!
So you know, congratulate yourselves that you've muscled through this, because this has been long. You know, I didn't, but cool. So.
Aww.
Oh my God.
Aww. No way.
So, one thing that we've touched upon in a lot of these games, and let me say this, I just put up a background of Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars behind me, which is my 5th and final pick. And we, you know, a lot of the games that we've talked about today have had very, you know, there have been deep things, there have been, you know, very, 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 possibly violent, you know, just people dying, different scenarios that play out in all of these games. Sometimes, you know, and something that I read comic books for a living, and not for a living. I read comic books in my spare time. Jesus, that'd be a great job.
Pretty good job, yeah.
But the thing that I sometimes get upset about with comic books is that everything is dark. Everything is dark, everything sucks, it all has to be awful, and, you know, it has to be ultra-violent, and we have to be miserable reading it. And I don't want that all the time in my comics. I don't want that all the time in my video games. When I played Super Mario RPG a long time ago, people were like, "That's gonna be a dumb game. Mario shouldn't be in an RPG, kids." And it's like, and playing Super Mario RPG is one of the most fun games I have ever played. It takes itself seriously without taking itself seriously. You have a true RPG story. You have, a sword falling from the sky into Bowser's Keep in the middle of you fighting Bowser in the beginning of the game, and you're just left like, what the hell happened? And suddenly Bowser's Keep is being controlled by the Smithy gang, and okay, well, what the hell do we do from here? So, and just the battle technique, the typical JRPG battle, the it's your turn, now it's my turn, it's your turn, now it's my turn. It exists, but your weapons also have an extra attack, or an extra ability if you do it, or you're involved in the special attack, like if you're using Fireball on an enemy, how many times you hit A or whatever will determine how many fireballs actually shoot at the bad guy, so on and so forth. And it has comedy to it. When this one bad guy is trying to marry Princess Peach, and at some point, Booster, that's his name. When Booster is trying to marry Princess Peach, Booster might kiss Mario, might kiss Bowser, Bowser might kiss Mario, or Peach kisses Mario, and it's adorable, it's fun, it's a true RPG, and I never thought that it would have been that. It's so much fun. The rating that I'm looking at right here is kids to adults. I played it as a kid. I loved it as a kid. I play it as an adult. I love it as an adult. It's a game that continues to make me look at it, and it's not a bad looking game either. It looks decent. The music is very much made for a Mario style game. But it's fun. I love this game, and I think that it suffers because it was a one-off. They haven't really done that with Mario ever again. I mean, there are RPG, I guess, mechanics in other Mario games now, but Super Mario RPG was a true RPG, JRPG, and they haven't gone back and done it. They haven't gone back and touched some of the characters that they made in the game, which is too bad, like Geno and Malo. But it's a fun game, and I love it, and I wanted it to be included here so that they aren't like, wow, these people are just obsessed with war and death, religion, war, and death.
That's a fair point.
I'm glad this planet is annihilated. These were terrible people. No, they get to see kind of the fun side of what a JRPG can be. So, Ages, what you got?
So I really did like that last choice, that Super Mario RPG. I gotta say though, the Paper Mario RPG series, that they kind of. So they do have their own RPG series. It's very different from The Legend of the Seven Stars.
Yeah.
But for my last pick, I really I needed to include something Breath of Fire because I love the series. Coming here representing the fans league. I really wanted to do 4, but I kind of got to talk a little bit about 4 with my whole experience with it and how awesome that game was for me in my introduction. So I'm actually going to pick Breath of Fire 3. There's always like that big debate. You got Final Fantasy 6 and 7. They're always going back and forth. Oh, which one's better? I like 7. Oh, I like 6. You got the same thing sort of with Breath of Fire. You got the fans of 3 and you got the fans of 2. It's that 2D versus 3D kind of perspective. For me, I really did enjoy 3. And 3 was kind of interesting. And they kind of did a lot of stuff that they did with 2 and 3, where they had Ryu, the main character. You find him in his dragon form. One of the coolest openings, I gotta say. They blast open one of these crystal shards, and in is a dragon. They thought, oh, we're gonna harvest this dragon and take it for its materials and stuff, and do whatever we want with it. Well, they blast open and they find out that it was an egg, a crystallized egg. And here's Ryu, a little dragon, and then boom, RPG battle starts. And you're like, what? And then you basically roast them by using your little breath attack, and they die. Like, they're dead. So you run away and stuff because you're a little baby dragon. You just got hatched. You're like, what's going on? I don't understand. And it's a really cool tale of how you start out as a boy and you don't know what's really going on. You get recruited by a band of thieves. They're trying to feed each other, and they're like, great, we have another one. Let's try to do our best. So they're trying to do the best that they can in this world, and you're working with them. And one of the coolest things I love in this game is Ryu. He gets his little armor, he gets a little sword from the shop and everything like that, and you're taking on bad guys. And here you have this other kid, his name's Tebow, and he's got all spunk and spire and stuff, and he's going in there and he's like, oh, look at I can cast magic and slash like a normal sword. But Ryu, he's always like, I'm poking you with a sword, but don't hit me. And you even see it like in the animations and the way his voice is in the game. But then after a certain point, which I think is around the time where you meet Nina, and she's also a little girl, and you help her because you have Balio and Sundar, who are basically these two a-holes that are like, oh, we want money, and we're going to kidnap you because you're a dragon. Oh, now we got a princess. Let's just use this one. And it's like, you're in here and you're like, I think this is the first moment where you actually change as a character. Ryu is now confident, and he knows what he needs to do. And you see it in the animations, like the way he attacks. He no longer is just swinging a sword wildly. He comes in and he slashes at them, and then the sound effect that accompanies with it. So you see in this game how Ryu grows throughout the game. Because the first half of the game, you're a child. You're running around, you meet Momo, and you go through her little adventure and stuff, and then you meet Peko and stuff, and that whole scene where literally makes you consider what's going on, where you have to lower in the plant into I forget if it was like lava or poison. It was some type of chemical that destroys plants, and it was an AI functioning plant that had kind of gone a little crazy and out of control, but it had feelings. It was a person. It was a new life form, but you were sent to destroy it, and you had to lower it in a conveyor belt. Like that whole scene with Peko popping out, and then it's all, it's kind of cheap because the game kind of like, oh, look, you did this sad emotional scene, but here's another character, and you're like, oh, okay, now I feel a little bit better about that. But it was just a fantastic game because you go through, and Capcom loves to add those mini games, and it really helps break up the game as far as an RPG. Final Fantasy did a lot of that too, where you'd be playing along, you're like, great, I just fought like 50 battles, we fought a boss, I'm getting a little tired, let's do a mini game. Capcom was really good about that. You got to train Bed out on the docks and stuff like that, so he could fight for the girl he loves and everything like that. And then you get to a certain point where you meet up with Gar, and Gar is this amazing guardian and stuff, and he wrecks Ryu and stuff, but then he joins you on your little adventure, but then you find out this dark, deep past secret that you are the last of the dragons. And that's one of the coolest things, is that Breath of Fire 1, 2, and 3 is kind of a continual story. It's a complete package. And 3 is that last of the brood. Brood representing the dragons. And you were basically the prince, the last of their kind, to be able to have this power, to be able to do what you do. And Gar is literally a being sent from the goddess to come and slay the dragons. That's what he does. He has a kill count. So he chooses to come and attack you and take you out, but you all of a sudden summon the ultimate Kaiser dragon and do enough damage to annihilate him and somehow escape. But then the game transitions, and now you're an adult. So you really get to play through this story of Ryu, and I really enjoyed that aspect of you get to see Ryu grow through the game, and that was kind of a neat trait that you don't always get to see in the game. A lot of different RPGs. Breath of Fire 2 kind of did it, but that period of when you are a child is very, very short. It's just the intro, and then your teenage Ryu going around kicking butt. But with Breath of Fire 3, they really focused on that growth and took the time to develop the character. And I gotta say, once you get to the end, you get past the desert, which is total BS because they tell you to go left, but you're supposed to go right kind of situation. They totally botched that one. I can't remember if that was in the strategy guide or in the actual game itself, but they were like, yeah, you're supposed to go left and then head to the star, and it's like, no, you're supposed to go right or something like that and go to the star. I haven't played in a while, but that's basically the case. Like, the game totally botches it on that part, so you'll get lost forever. But once you get through there and you get to the new part of the city where no one's really ventured before, and you go meet the goddess Marie and stuff, it's super interesting because the goddess has been pulled as kind of like this antagonist to the brood, because the goddess is there to slay the brood. She's there to stop them. But the reason for what she did was admirable, because the dragons, as you saw in Breath of Fire 1, were attacking each other. You had the Light Clan and you had the Dark Clan, and they just kept defeating each other and trying to be more powerful and be stronger and stuff like that. So she had these guardians created to subdue them, and basically her reasoning, though, was a little extreme, to wipe them completely out. You do find other brood members and stuff like that, but you are technically like the friends or the chosen one per se. But it's just super interesting because you get to that end, and I won't spoil all of it because there's some really cool things that happen at the end that definitely should be played. But it's super cool because there's so many times where the game gives you the option, and this is kind of cool about the Breath of Fire series, is you get multiple endings. There's not a whole bunch, not like some of the other games like Star Ocean 2, tons of endings in that game. But Breath of Fire 3, there's constant moments where she's like, just stop doing this. Just give up your power and allow me to protect you. I'm not asking you to die. I'm asking you to not be a part of the brood. I'm just going to watch over you. You stay here with me, and we'll protect everybody, because your powers are risky. They could destroy the world, and I don't want that to happen. I want everybody to live. But at the same time, that's kind of a different mindset of, well, now I'm captive. Now I'm being a prisoner per se. So, both choices are admirable. Do I give up my powers because they could potentially destroy the world, or would I rather fight this being and keep my powers because I know I have full control over it, and there's nothing right about prisoning my entire race, and I'm going to fight for them because we deserve a chance to live and a chance to survive. So it's a fantastic kind of story of Ryu. I would have loved to talk about Breath of Fire 4, but I think I got enough in there that I kind of snuck that one in at the beginning.
Got an extra pick in there. Well, very cool. No, I loved Breath of Fire 3, so that's really neat. So, Nina, what you got?
Okay, before I'm going to say my pick, I want to give honorable mention to a series of games called Phantasy Star. It's very old. I think a lot of it being used in other games. I think it just was so ahead of its time in so many ways, especially 2 and 4. But because I didn't pick it, I won't go much into it. My last vote goes to Mass Effect series. I just love it. Again, it's just, when you start to talk about a game you like, you're so afraid you're going to spoil it for someone else. And there's so many strong moments. I remember that I picking in the first years who you're going to send to a suicide mission. But I'm going to mention in particular the second game, because I never, the game starts when you're the hero of the galaxy, and you think, okay, how the hell can they, I don't know, get better than this? And your ship is destroyed, but you completely floating away in space, which is actually a brilliant way to start the game, because then you can actually reconstruct yourself. That actually makes sense if you want to change everything about your pick between the first and the second game. So being ripped apart and die at the start of the game is actually a brilliant way, and I didn't see it before. And then you have Martin Sheen, the Elusive Man, coming at you and telling you, you work for me now, and I have an offer you can resist. And basically right now you are a wanted man, but if you help me, we can get together on it. And you're actually forced to do everything from scratch. you no longer have the help that you had in the first game, which was exactly brilliant way to introduce a new gameplay, because they actually tell you, oh well, we don't no longer use this type of weapon. That was actually brilliant because they introduced a lot of new feature and actually tell you what happened because you were in a coma for 2 years. So it all makes sense. It was really brilliant way to get you into it. Not to mention that you actually want to know why you were killed, to find out that everything that you actually thought you did in the first game actually didn't matter. It was only the start, and there is actually something even bigger beside it. Most of your case, you can see most of the old crew, but some of them join you, and some of them just actually resent you or can't join you right now for any other reason. I mean, everyone has their own life now, which was, again, very, very real, because you awake into your life, which no longer is your life, and you actually stand by something new that you didn't before, and they have their opinions on it. I always consider the third game to be just a sequel because it just feels like that. A direct sequel, they could just sell it together as one game with just small fixes. Brilliant voice acting. I love all the races and the idea it actually can be real. It's taking place in our solar system. There's actually a bigger threat. Again, choices, storyline. I'm going to actually talk about the female shepherd played by Jennifer. I kept forgetting her last name. She's doing a brilliant job with her. So yeah, people are actually going to actually hate me right now because I introduced Dragon Age to them, but Mass Effect, I think, come really close to being one of my favorite games, sometimes even suppressing Breath of Fire 2 amazingly. So yeah, this is going to be my last vote. A great game. I really recommend.
Well, good pick. I think that's kind of right up there too. So very good. So all right, Jack, what you got?
I am super surprised that we've gotten this far without even mentioning really Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, honestly.
I was waiting for this.
And actually, it's not on my list. I just thought to mention it because, like, oh well, we probably should. I was thinking about maybe adding it, but I was going to add a caveat that you have to have the game, but then the aliens also need to see the sales numbers. They need to see the
honestly.
They need to see like a clip of the reaction shots when people found out that it was going to be remade. I mean, it has to be some sort of like social impact, something like that, to be like, okay.
There has to be a billboard that they see in the background with Cloud and HD.
Yes, like you guys need to understand how important this game was. So yeah, having said all that, I'm surprised that I didn't put it on the list anyway. But the one that the last one that I chose was Rogue Galaxy. And I liked this game. This is a PS2 era game. I'm not typically a big fan of that kind of cel shaded type animation, but I thought it worked pretty well for that game. Again, an action RPG. Your characters could use two different sets of weapons. Like the main character had a sword and a gun, so you kind of had those two different attack options. One of the guns, I can't remember what it was called, but would create platforms where you could actually climb up a platform to take down one of the bigger enemies or bosses or something like that. But the big thing that I liked the most about that, a lot of the music I thought was really good in that game, and in particular there was a vocal track called "Dreaming My Way Home," and the artist that did that, I'm trying to remember her name. It was Barbara something. I can't remember her last name, but she's not one that's real well known. Like, you know, you don't. It's not Florence and the Machine doing it or anything like that. but and the song itself wasn't overly produced, if that makes sense. It sounded so genuine and off and real, and it made it, especially paired with the moment in the game where it's playing, it made it very, very powerful, I thought, and it kind of tears at you in a good way. So yeah, that's kind of the story was okay, not the best one on the list here, but it's still pretty good. But the music and that particular track was pretty good, so that's why I added it on the list.
Very cool. Thanks, Jack. I've never played it, but I will have to check it out, definitely. Scott, your band cleanup or whatever it is.
All right. Yeah. Well, I know I've been modern throughout this whole podcast, covering, what was it, Final Fantasy 12, Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days, The World Ends With You, so Final Fantasy 10. But honestly, I'm taking it right back to PlayStation 1 era. I don't know if you gentlemen or you viewers have heard about this, but Legend of Dragoon.
Legend of Dragoon. Here we go.
I don't know if you guys know, but
we'll see. Yeah.
Before Final Fantasy became, the next best thing, it was a 4-disc title named Legend of Dragoon: The Adventures of Dart, Shauna, Lavitz, and, well, Dragoons. Anyway, I definitely had to put this on my list. Unfortunately, I do not know in terms of information if it is a Japanese RPG game or just an RPG, but it needs to be up there. I mean, we're talking PlayStation 1 era. We're talking block characters. You think Final Fantasy VII Cloud Stripe's hair looked bad? You should see this. I swear Dart's brown hair looks similar. It's ridiculous. Oh, and not...
This looks like a game I made.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just one weekend, I was like, I could make games, guys. But that's okay.
But yeah, just fantastic story. You're thrown right in the shoes of Dart. I believe Shauna is like a childhood love interest from the beginning. Music is a pinnacle part. I mean, there's even a cutscene where, Dart finally finds his confidence, and, it plays Dart's theme, and it's a very sympathetic, but still it just brings you in with the type of message it conveys. And again, in those times, PlayStation 1, you had to get the music right, especially with your cutscenes. You can't just have, a horrible circumstance happening to one of the characters and then having, some groovy, upbeat music. So they aced it on the whole. Like I said, 4 discs. You get into this, everything is kind of more medieval in setting. So we're talking just like swords, spears, bow and arrow. But what I really liked about this game is the actual Dragoon features. So these characters, not to spoil anything, but they find an inanimate object that allows them to become a Dragoon. So, they gain this cool, awesome introduction every time in battle you're doing it. And each inanimate object that the characters find throughout the story is given to them in a very sophisticated type of way, due to each character's kind of shallow lacking in personality and depth. So, again, 2016, you play this game, it's vintage. Unless you understand the timeline and era it came from, it's going to be very difficult to go from, modern CGI, graphics to blocks again. But one amazing feature that from Legend of Dragoon that I would hope to see even in some of the RPGs or JRPGs today is it was called Addition. And no, we're not adding numbers, people. It's addition in the aspects that you would click your attack, and it would give you a timing on when to press the X button. And at first, your addition is very simplistic. So // you hit the X once, and then it shows again when the indication's supposed to be made. But later on in the game, as you develop your character's levels and such, the addition gets more complex, so sometimes you'll have to hit it 3 times in a row, and if you don't hit it right when it shows that white sign, well, your stats are reduced, your damage is reduced, and so forth. So I think in JRPGs, a lot of issues are, you click attack, you see the guy hit the enemy with the sword or hit them with the staff, or you use magic and you just see one, graphics of thunder or fire. There's not really, kind of like a God of War sense where it's like, oh, you have to click this button unless you're not doing that damage. And I wish they would implement this feature in a lot of the new modern games, because I think when it comes to RPGs, it's just a lot of strategy, which is good, but you should have some sort of, reply. You should be doing at least something, not to the extent of Kingdom Hearts, where it's like, you're mashing the attack button to hit that keyblade like 3 times. No, I mean, to do that slash, to do that cool dance move, slash him a couple times vertically, horizontally, and down and up again, you want to be able to hit the buttons at the right time. And I think that was a really nice mechanism that they implemented in such an early day of the PlayStation 1. Storyline, I don't know. You're always moving from here to there. I mean, you lose a very important character, you find a new character. It's very quick paced, but at the ending, everything comes together, and I think it's definitely one for the books. If you haven't tried out Legend of Dragoon, and you are understanding of Final Fantasy VII, you played games like that, you're not going to have a hard time dealing with a couple hours, a few days, then definitely you should try out Legend of Dragoon, because that 4-disc expansion, it was before Final Fantasy VII, for the record, people. So I have to say, I don't know if, Square Enix was picking from that game or what they were doing, but realistically, that it was out first. So, and honestly, there were a couple Star Wars commentary, like, oh god, you guys just have to play it. I swear, there's a scene where you literally think you're talking to Yoda, because the dialogue is just like, to be one is to get angry, and to get angry is to fear death. And it's like, okay, did you guys watch the Star Wars movie and just like type this up?
That was Scott imitating Yoda for everyone.
Just for the records, let the record show.
Let the record show.
Good Yoda.
So,
definitely.
no, but that sounds cool. I never got to play it, so it's one of those things. So that's well, guess what, people? That's it.
Oh my God.
That's what all the aliens will play when they find our broken home. There were, and the funny thing is that as we're naming games, I'm just like, oh, what about, and like we said, we didn't name Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, that was
we
strange.
didn't, I guess. No Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Nothing like that. I'm shocked. But not really. At the same, I mean, it's like whose line is it anyway? It's the points don't matter, and nothing matters. It's just we're coming up with lists to come up with lists, and it's fun. And this was a long one, and so Nina, Ages, thank you so much for sticking through it and making time and everything, because this was a long podcast even for us. You can find them on Facebook at facebook.com/WeDesireBreathOfFire.
We also
Ages.
We also have a site. We also have a forum, dragonbrood.com, where other more detailed conversation can be held in threads. We would like to actually be more influenced on Capcom, so any vote, any message, everything that can be done to get Capcom, get the series more attention and more ports, even to PC. Lately, we want to actually try and get Breath of Fire 4 on PC by Steam, because that would be awesome. We recently were able to get a port of PlayStation 3 for PSP for Breath of Fire 3, which was actually great. So every voice matter, void, fan art, everything. We love Breath of Fire, and we want more stuff on it, so that would be great.
So it was dragonbrood.com?
Yeah, we have the Facebook page, but that's our official site too.
Cool. And Ages, you stream on Twitch quite a bit. You are twitch.tv/RememberTheAGES.
That is correct. Yes, we it's my own show outside of the circle of Breath of Fire. Actually, how I came to find the fan page and all that stuff, because we are actually not the original admins of the page. Was because I was streaming the series. That was how I actually got my streaming hobby inspired by. Was wanting to play through the entire series, and I got to know the original admin and make good communications with him, and became friends with him. And then from there, this is actually how I ended up. So yeah, I stream on Twitch. We still do it every week. We play all kinds of different games very slowly. We've termed the slow running term just because but yeah, Breath of Fire also has a Twitter page, so if you're interested in that, it's Breath of Fire on Twitter, so you'll be able to find us there. So,
very cool.
Different things. We're always trying to do different campaigns, just like Dina was saying. Basically, we were able to get Breath of Fire 3 on, I believe it was North America, because Europe had it, but it was available for download on the PlayStation Network, so we were super excited about that. We're always trying to find out new avenues. Sometimes we get word like things aren't going to work out a certain way, so we try to go different routes. We were able to get the Udon company to translate the Breath of Fire manga, not manga, but the art book, so I even got that right here. And it's awesome to be able to read this in English. I have another art book for Grandia too, and I'm like, oh, I wish we could do the same thing with that. But yeah, so like different things like that, different media, we always try to push and see if we can find new ways to just get the fan base involved and stuff. I really do enjoy the fan page on Facebook. There's so many cool people on there. They do lots of cool artworks, music, you name it. Everybody's trying to contribute and be a part of that. So.
I also want to mention that I think the community is wonderful, one of the best community I ever run into, especially being invited to a podcast by a community, which is great. So, yeah.
Well, this is I'm so glad to have you guys on, and if we can kind of try to nudge Capcom a little bit on that, start looking at one of their IPs that they should really pay attention to. I'm all for that, most definitely. No, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Talked about a lot of things, and covered just so many games. Alrighty.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Take care, everyone.
Yes, thank you all.
Have a great rest of your weekend.
Thanks for everything.
All
right.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
See ya. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. If you want to hear more, or if you have an opinion, feel free to let us know. Share this with your friends. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Tunein, and we do post to YouTube as well. Any opinions really help us out with developing this more. We have a lot of cool things down the pipe for you, so please give us a listen and share us with your friends. Thank you so much.